Amensol Shadow, The Shadow of the Sun, the finale. Dirty Sam peered up at the full moon from beneath the king's mezzanine. Darkness had fallen fast, as clouds obscured the horizon, but the full moon was too bright not to take precautions. He noticed curtains half closed in a window on the second floor, just outside the king's chamber. Provided plenty of cover until the time was right to carry out his mission. The alleys were clear, even at this early hour. The part of town was not traveled much, being at the end of the street and only housing supplies, warehouses for the king's building provisions. He was intimately familiar with almost every square inch of Thronefast, having spent so much time here over his life, a good portion of that covertly. It seemed fitting to him that his mission be carried out here at the king's own house, where the trouble began. Sam leaped, grabbed the edge of the mezzanine, hoisted himself to the ledge and over the railing. The window was too far to jump, and the wall was too smooth between windows, even with the elaborate trim and cornings all over the building. The roof, however, was accessible as he scanned around. The mezzanine was partially covered by a porch that extended out from the entrance. The tall pillars holding the corners reached up to the stone molding just under the roof of it. The handholds there were small, but just enough. Sam pulled himself up high as he could, squeezed the pillar with his legs, giving him enough time to reach beyond to the top of the roof. As he was making his way around the roof to the window, his mind flashed back to his previous missions at the King's Hall. There had been a few, all of them different and for different purposes, but all aimed at one goal: to stop the powerful men nestled high above the masses from gaining access to the dragon magic, whatever the cost. His mind's eye recalled the sights, the smells, the feelings of those important tasks. Each burned into his mind, as all his missions had been. Some say it's hard to kill, but easy to kill again. Sam had never experienced that. Although he was very good at his job, each death was still significant to him. He just felt the higher calling of his work, following the old one, the unimaginable outcomes he was able to see through his time-skewed perspective. That and the fact that the old one was the only soul, other than the dragons and one other who posed no threat for now, who even knew the details of the dragon accord and the power it contained. The old one had not even trusted Sam with that knowledge. Sam didn't want it. He reached the area of the roof just above the window, knelt down. His fingers gripped the edge tightly as he rolled over it and hung precariously off, looking for the proper dismount. His feet were still a good cubit from the sill, and another cubit inward due to the roof's overhang. There was a small lip around the top of the window that seemed his best bet. This is it, he thought. Am I ready? And he felt a tug on the back of his collar. Cole heard the moaning from the assassin who laid beside him on the ground. It had taken him by surprise, so he was not able to brace at all from the fall. He was clearly disoriented. Cole's breath returned to his lungs after the fall, and in a panic, he reached down and found his knife by his side. One quick motion, pulled it out, thrust it as hard as he could to his side. It sank deep into the right breast of the assassin. He cried out in pain, and it startled Cole and froze him in place, looking over at the long dagger protruding from a bleeding wound. The instincts returned to the assassin, and he reached over and yanked the knife from his wound. Cole was still immobilized by fear and uncertainty as he watched his knife enter the hand of a trained assassin next to him. The blood bubbled up out of the wound, and the assassin began to cough. The assassin looked over with wild eyes at Cole, his face half grimaced and half enraged. He swung Cole's dagger back in his direction, and instinctively, Cole caught it by his hook, the metal sparking as the two objects made contact. "Who's there?" came a voice from the window. The king looked out on the skirmish on the ground below. "Guards, quick! To the rear entrance, ground floor!" he barked, as the sound of clanging metal and scurrying feet were heard outside the door. The assassin rolled over, applying more pressure to the dagger hanging precariously over Cole's chest. Cole pushed and strained as hard as he could as the assassin pushed against his weaker body. His muscles gave way to the overpowering strength of his assailant, and Cole released his upward pressure, shoved sideways, allowing the dagger to slice through the fleshy part of his shoulder. Cole's hook on his right arm, now free, swung around his wound and made contact with the assassin's face. A sickening crunch followed as the steel shattered the nose bone. Instantly, the assassin recoiled, grabbing his face, still coughing and wheezing as blood filled his lungs. Cole cried out as he pulled the dagger from the wound. In a moment of total focus, zeroed in on his target, thrust the dagger into the neck of his enemy, bringing the tip down into his chest and severing his jugular. The assassin's body loosened, finally settled fully to the ground as the blood stopped flowing. In pain, Cole raised himself up from the ground and the king's guards made their way to his location. "On the ground! On the ground!" one guard shouted at Cole, who immediately dropped to his knees and grabbed his shoulder. Guards came over and grabbed the dagger out of the assassin's neck and removed his twin daggers that were sheathed at his sides. Cole noticed, as they were looking over the body, there was a small vial, only half full, tucked into the strap on his belt as well. "Careful," Cole said faintly. "Those daggers might be poisoned." "Cole!" A familiar voice rose behind him. Cole heard the footsteps of the king racing to his location. "Cole, my boy," Avendir said, making his way to Cole's side. "You hurt? You need a cleric." "My shoulder," Cole winced as he laid back onto the ground, with no more strength to sit up. "What happened here? What is going on?" Avendir asked, kneeling beside the familiar yet matured boy he had known so well. "I saw this man." Cole stopped himself. His job was to eliminate the threat without alarming the king that there had been a target of an assassination. He was completely lost as to what to say. "He attacked me as I was walking down the alley." The lines were beginning to line up in his head as he rested. "He yelled something about Red Raven. He tried to kill me, but I fought him off for a second." Avendir looked him over with soft eyes. The years had brought this young man up well. He looked so much like his father, Hanai, Avendir thought. It made the wound to losing him open again at just the thought of Hanai. "Everything else is a blur," Cole continued. "I cut him, he cut me. I was able to disorient him just long enough to finish him off. I swear, Avendir, he attacked me. He attacked me." Avendir grabbed his hand. I know. Just rest. "Brynjol, fetch Lauren in his quarters and tell him Cole is injured and we need a cleric. As fast as you can, go." Avendir stood up beside Cole and looked down at the blood-soaked body. Why would this dwarf attack Cole, he thought. Dirty Sam rubbed the back of his neck, his mind playing tricks on him. A distant memory of the fall from the window reminded him of the irony of his current situation. The room was finally empty. Sam saw his chance to engage. His leather-soled shoes silently floated along the floor to where King Avendir was sitting in his chair. King sipped habitually on his nightcap, staring into the fire and letting the stresses of the day leave his mind. Sam reached down to his left side, pulled his dagger from its leather sheath, making no sound at all. He brought it around low, out of eyesight, until it made contact with the skin of the king's neck. It made a quiet shushing sound next to the ear of Avendir. A swallow rippled under his blade. "O King," Sam said quietly, "I've come to deliver balance to our world. I implore you, please make no sound, or I will kill you." The king stayed silent. Sam was not even looking at him in the face, but staying at his back behind his luxurious chair. "It has been a while since I visited your house, King of Men. Let's see here. Oh yeah, I killed the great Lauren's replacement after he attempted to seduce his captains with tales of treasures if they only would pilfer an elven storehouse under the cover of night and blame it on a revenant war party. But you don't know about that, do you?" "Who are you?" the king said, low, in a hushed tone. "Simple enough question, you'd think," Sam said. "But it just seems that nothing in life is ever simple." Sam took a breath and paused. "Assassin, justice seeker, enemy, friend. What are you doing in my house? Avendir seethed. This dead man was playing games with him. Father, son, nephew. Oh, you will not make it out alive, I swear to you. You might as well kill me now. Sam pushed the edge of the knife a little firmer on the neck of the king. Soldier, hero, traitor. You, sir, Avendir said quietly, are no hero. And if you were a soldier, you definitely are a traitor. Oh, undeniable, yes. I do not blindly follow any rulers. Your sheep know your voice good enough, all of them bleating after you in your wars and your conquests. It's true also that you have set yourself apart here in this world. The ever-optimistic commander leading his men to the slaughter. Tell me, O king, how many men have fallen in your quest for power? I've counted recently. There are 5 on the western coast, 3 in their tents in the central plains. 12 there were outside the caves of Qadr Hor pursuing a beaten enemy. There was another 3 captains on the road through the mountain pass. And then there was Narian. Narian, Avendir said. Your misinformation gives you away. Narian Cassigue isn't dead, you pathetic weasel. Oh, no? Cole pondered. My, you have stumbled upon the truth and made me a fool, Avendir. Oh, no, wait, that's right. He is dead. You know how I know? Sam leaned in closer to Avendir's ear. 'Cause I killed him. Avendir's face exploded into a murmur in rage, unable to move due to his predicament. His mind fumbled around for a way to break free from his captor. You lie. Do I? Sam replied. Would I be so frivolous with something as profound as ending a life? Come now, king. What do you take me for, a common thief? I take you for a dead one. Sam dropped a piece of parchment onto the king's lap. It was hard to read. It looked as if it had been previously crumpled into a ball and was moist all over. This, O king, is the parchment that listed Narian's work on the high dragon word, death. It's very dangerous magic indeed. I stole it from Narian's study several moons ago. But you know Narian, classic overachiever. He repeated all his research and made another. There was just no stopping him. Sam leaned away from Avendir's ear, moved to the other side of his face, still out of sight. So, I sent his work back to him, stuffed it down his throat, as an experiment. And the magic worked. He died. You'll have no obvious signs of struggle or of the nature of his death. So let's just say he died of old age, huh? How typical, Avendir said. The vermin step out of their hole to boast, but only in the clear. You wouldn't talk so tough facing your king like a man. Yes, that is typical. You have, as always, jumped to conclusions without knowing enough to make sound decisions. I speak the truth, so I must be boasting. I guess I'm a crazed killer. Avendir grunted out a chuckle. Your words, not mine, he thought. It just so happens that even though Narian Castige was a wretched person, arrogant and dismissive, hated by those who served him, I would rather not have killed him. The truth is, O king, if you had not pushed him to continue down this reckless path, he would still be alive. Sam paused, thinking of the life he just took. It's ironic how the one thing he was good at was the one thing he begrudged. It was truly his passion, tragic and unnecessary all at once. I've spent my life preparing and fighting for others' causes, Sam continued. I finally found one worth fighting for, and unfortunately, he was in the way. So were you. Well, allow me to bring some relief to your struggles, Avendir exclaimed, grabbing Sam's arm that held the dagger and bearing down on as hard as he could to break free from his hold. Sam fought back, curling his arm up with all his might he had. The king pulled the arm away just enough to drop like a weight to the ground. He hit the wooden floor and instantly rolled forward away from his captor. The sword lay on the table across the large room. He only needed to cover half the room. He heard Sam's footsteps behind him, the soft plod of his leather-bottomed shoes quickly recovering from the surprise. The king leaped forward toward the table. His hand slammed down on the hilt of the sword and wrapped instantly around its grip. A sharp pain in his back and a dull pain in his chest signaled Sam's knee, pounding Avendir's body into the table as he stretched across it. The king dropped to the knee as he tried to swing his sword around in a defensive posture. His hand was met with a kick that immediately dislodged his sword from his hand. Avendir was once again weaponless, at the mercy of his assassin. He felt the first wave of fear as his assailant gripped an arm still stretched out across the table and pinned it down. Sam was still behind Avendir as he leaned over the table, allowing his face to be shown for the first time to the king. With his left hand, he held down the king's arm, and as he started to chant something under his breath, he began cutting marks into Avendir's skin with the hook where his right hand would be. "Ah!" the king cried out, feeling the burning sensation that accompanies knife wounds. Outside the door, Sam could hear the footsteps of the guard posted at the door as he approached. As the door to the king's study swung open, Sam loosed his grip of Avendir's long enough to grab his dagger he had sheathed at his side and hurl it at the almost open doorway. It would be just in time for Sam's long dagger to brush past the door and lodge itself in the chest of the guard. He gently staggered forward, fell through the open doorway on his face, driving the rest of the dagger up through his back. Sam reclaimed the arm of the king, though he had not stopped chanting under his breath. After a few more cuts, he released the king and fell wincing to the floor. Avendir quickly grabbed his arm, soaked in fresh blood, held it to his chest to help stop the bleeding. He rolled over to get back to his knees and staggered up onto his feet. He grabbed a shirt that was strewn on the back of the chair, wrapped it around his arm, and stumbled back across the floor to his sword, still laying in the middle of the room on the floor. He moaned as he bent over and picked it up, then barely made it to a chair against the outside wall of the room, and hastily raised it up instinctively. Sam was not by him. He was across the room at the door, turning the guard over and retrieving his blade. He watched Sam wipe the blood off the dagger, sheathe it once more. He knew that dagger. The dark elven handle still bearing the markings that were branded into it. Hanai. Sam slowly crossed the room, looking defeated, not victorious. His hook found the opening to his shirt at the arm, pulled it up to his elbow, and he began to chant. Avendir looked across the room to the handsome man in the short beard, skin the color of fresh-tilled soil, missing his right hand. "Cole, what's the meaning of this?" the king said quietly through the panting and pain. I don't understand." Cole, who took the name Sam several years ago to mask his identity, took the hook on his right arm and placed it on the skin of his left forearm and began to cut. "You traitor, you worthless maggot. You abandoned me and turned on me. You were aligned against your own people, working for the Red Raven. You killed your brothers in arms. You weakened the standing of your race, ruining our advances on crushing the remnant who killed your mother and father." Cole's face winced as he continued to cut on his own arm, his blood mixing with the blood of the king that still coated his hook. He removed the hook from his arm and dropped it to his side. He wearily walked himself to a chair facing the king's and dropped into it. "How could you?" Avendir growled, his expression mired in shock and disgust. "Your heritage, your privilege, the blessings that were bestowed upon you by my family, by me, and you throw it all away. For what? For money? For fame? Answer me!" Cole barely showed signs he knew the king was even there. He rested his bleeding arm on the chair rest as blood ran down onto the upholstery. Cole had seldom felt so tired, so unmotivated to continue. "I have answers, Avendir," Cole said. "I do, but you won't understand, even after I tell you. It is your blessing and your curse. You do not care about anyone's opinion but your own." Cole continued. "I remember the first time I saw you in this room. It was only for a moment. I pulled an assassin out of the window of this very study, 26 years ago. Told you he had attacked me to quell suspicions of an assassination on you. You know as well as I do that what would have happened if you would have suspected a group of trying to kill you. There would have been a civil unrest everywhere. Aliston found out about the attempts on your life just in time to send me to spare it. That's absurd, the king said. And you asked me to stay, so I stayed. I stayed for the next 10 years, doing the bidding of the king under Lorne, may he rest in peace. I fought for men, as my father before me, as my mother before me, rooting out so-called evil, all the while knowing the truth of the raids on the Revenant. They were in the way of possible pieces of the Dragon Accord, weren't they? Living in the caves and the tunnels near the surface of Kadrahor. All that power, just waiting there to be discovered and used. For mankind, right? For your people. It's always for the people, isn't it, Avendir? Avendir stared at Cole with a sullen look, hurting inside and out by the betrayal of the boy who had revered him once upon a time. You give great oratories on the glory of your people, all the while lying to their faces. You don't know what you're talking about, shot back Avendir. Oh, don't I? Sending fathers and brothers, sisters and mothers to die, fighting for a seemingly noble cause, only to deliver artifacts and great power. For who? Has this made their lives better? Has this power been shared with them? Oh no. That would be unwise. If this power got out, it would certainly fall into the hands of those who would be our enemies, right? So you must keep all the power for yourself. Isn't that right? You, the one who is alone to be trusted with power. You, the one heir to the throne of Amensol. You, the son of a man who abandoned his children, who lies to their faces, who denies them his affection and the truth of their origins. You, the one who hides that information from your own kin, who spies on his family for signs of sedition, if they are ever to learn that they have the right to the throne. You, the one who chooses revenge over discipline, who cuts the hands off of children, then leaves them to suffer. That's not fair, Cole. My actions saved our people and the people of this entire world. Your sacrifice saved countless lives, and I don't spread rumors of our kinship because it is just that, rumors. Cole lifted his head and stared directly at Avendir. The fire and anger were stored up for this moment. Now that it was here, he felt it dissipate in the face of futility. I know you know. You can lie to me, tell me you don't. You can tell me all about the greater good for the glory of our people, for the stability of Thronefast, whatever you want. We both know the deception and the secrecy goes on one direction, for your benefit. You have lit up this world with a great light, shining like a noonday sun, bringing wealth and prosperity to a number of our people. You speak of great qualities, honor, valor, love, and sacrifice. But you have hidden behind these things, haven't you, Avendir, son of Amensol? Avendir shifted in his seat, no longer thinking of his arm, but of the threat this assassin now poses to the sanctity of his homeland. Cole kept talking. The sun always hides its dark side, always shows the brightness on its face, never reveals its shadows, its darkness. But in the shadow of the sun, there lies true intention. There hides its true expression, never allowed to show outwardly, but always present, just behind the light. I've branded you, Cole said. I, and my master, been unable to sway you in your search for power and the secrets of the Dragon Accord. It is not for this time or for you. As much as you think of yourself and your role in this world, you are but a small cog in the machine of fate. You will not have the power of the Dragon Tongue or the answers in the Dragon Accord. And I've been forced to this last effort to keep you off that path. I can't kill you, Uncle, for more reasons than one. But I know myself and what I've done and what I'm capable of, and I can kill myself with little hesitation. Cole peeled the cloth from his wounded forearm to expose a symbol carved into his flesh. Narian exposed some powers with the research he has done over the years. I've been studying it in secret, as had Aliston. There's much power in their written and spoken word, those dragons. I've marked us both with a symbol that binds us together for life. Our fates, to an extent, are intertwined. Markings on your arm and mine are identical. If you were to die, I would die. And if I die, you will as well. Avendir removed the cloth from his arm as well and peered at the mangled flesh and stared at the symbol cut into it. Cole recited the words he was speaking earlier as he cut himself. And Avendir's wound glowed crimson. The light seemed to burn in the wound, and Avendir pushed the cloth back over top of it. Therefore, continued Cole, I've set these terms. Narian is now dead. His research will die with him. If you try to replace him, I will kill myself. If you try to retrieve any pieces of the dragon accord, I will kill myself. If you send an emissary who as much as asks a question about the dragon accord of another leader, I will kill myself. And you, dear Avendir, will die as well. No one will know who it was or how it was caused. You will have died from some natural cause. Oh, the magic has other effects, as all magic does. Fortunately, this magic only holds for 10 years, at which point we will both die. Cole stood up and began abruptly walking toward the doors of the mezzanine. Wait, you can't be serious, Avendir exclaimed, rising and following him. Avendir's mind raced, trying to figure a way out of this serious situation. He had many close calls with death in the past. This was different. His panic gave way to anger. No dragon magic is strong enough to kill me, Avendir shouted as Cole continued to walk away from him. But I swear to you, Cole, I will hunt you down and lock you away for the rest of your miserable life for this. And trust me, it will be long, just to be sure. So long, Avendir. The next time I see you, you will die, one way or another. Or I will see you at the side of our forefathers in death, Cole said, walking out into the night. Spend your time well for our people. Cole lowered himself over the railing of the mezzanine and disappeared into the night. Avendir never saw him again. Cater sat rather still in his chair at the tavern beside the road near Avendir's Pass. He wasn't sure how to react to a plot against the king, his great uncle, made by his estranged father who was an assassin. Not quite sure what to make of that story, he finally said, shaking his head, refusing to make eye contact with the man in front of him. Cole lifted his left sleeve of his shirt up past his forearm. A rather large scar was vivid and light-colored against Cole's medium brown skin. Cole placed the arm down on the table and began mumbling words again. The scar on his arm lit up, a faint red color, almost like it was buried deep down under his skin. So, this is all true, Cater half asked and half wanted to be false. This is too much. I can't be party to this anymore. Cater stood and turned to face the door. Cole caught his arm. Son, I don't have much time to finish my story. Please, let me finish. Cole's demeanor had changed from the half-century-old swashbuckling braggadocio to an imploring older parent. Cater paused in his tracks, staring at the floor. He wondered the consequences of running out now. He had ran out on the old man who had raised him. I have run away before, he said, not looking back at Cole. I know. Alliston died the night you left. I left you with the man that raised me. He was not the best choice, I admit, but he was all I had. He made great sacrifice for me, moving from his home, changing his name. I also told him to keep the research he was doing a secret from you, that you had to find your own way in the world without being bred for a single purpose. Cater stood completely still, not wanting to make a decision on where his life would take him from this point. Funny thing how fate works. I told you you couldn't change your status. You are definitely the son of an outcast assassin, noble blood, and warriors, and saviors of men. You are rich and poor, good and bad, powerful and vulnerable. But you can choose what to do with it. Be the hero, be the villain. The choice is up to you. Cater heard a thud hit the floor beside his feet. It was a worn old backpack, stained and patched in places. It had a wooden handle that stuck out of the opening, not quite fitting all the way into the bag. The engraving on it said Honn, burned into it. This bag has all you need to make the most of your lot in life. You're ready to make your decisions, as I was when I left your mother, not wanting to endanger her and the life I had to lead. Cole stopped for a moment, thinking of his wife and child and the choice he made to leave them. What would have been the outcome of staying with him, raising his son and being there for his wife? What would that have changed? What could he have done different that would have made him a bigger impact for his people, for the sake of his mother and father who gave him everything they had, even their life? Like I said, boy, only fools look back and wonder and regret. You make your choice and you live with it, and die with it. It's our calling and curse, son. The unseen pillar that props up the House of Amensol. Better or worse. I'm just glad I found you in time. Cater turned, hearing voice change slightly. Cole was hunched over, his forearm glowing. 10 years goes by pretty fast, huh? Cole slurred, slumping over farther down in his chair. Take the sack. Go. No regrets. No regrets. Kidder watched as the light slowly dimmed in the scar until it was completely gone. Cole was dead, in a tavern in an obscure village near Thronefast. Nothing of value on his person. Cater stood there for a long time, looking at the man who was his father, unsure of how to feel. His eyes finally shifted, looked down at the sack by his feet, bent down slowly, looked over on the outside, picked it up, and threw it over his shoulder. He left the table, his father, and his old life as his feet cleared the threshold of the tavern door.